from the Nürburgring. Can you believe it? It's already the second half of the DTM season 2020, and that means only 9 races to go. The sun is shining here at the Nürburgring. It's warm, and we're looking forward to an exciting qualifying. Of course, all eyes are on this man, Nico Müller, because he's clearly dominant and leading the championship by far. And let's see what he's going to come up with for this qualifying. It's definitely going to be an exciting one, that's for sure, and we're looking forward to it. So everyone, enjoy the qualifying. Here's a commentator.
Thanks very much indeed, Verena. Chris Hartley here, trackside, to talk you through this second qualifying session and this 5th weekend of DTM 2020. And as Verena says, we're now at the halfway stage in the championship. 9 races down, 9 to go. And Nico Müller, well, can anybody stop him here this weekend? It's going to be a big ask, given how dominant he was yesterday. Robin Freins there, who is closest to him in the championship, but now 43 points adrift. And in the race yesterday, a huge battle between Robin and René Rast, who swapped positions on several occasions in the battle for second place. There he's running to the right of your picture in the 33 Team Rosberg Audi. And late in the race, Robin went for a move down the inside into turn 1. A very late move on the brakes. The door began to close as René turned into the corner. And hitting the curbs into a spin went Robin Freins. So dropped down out of a podium position down to 5th place at the end. And therefore losing more points to the championship leader, Nico Müller. And René Rast.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
René Rast keen to get out then. He is the one driver you think maybe he can close that gap, because he has this knack of going through the data and working out how to improve and drag everything out of a car and get it better on a Sunday than on a Saturday. But Nico yesterday was 2/10 quicker than anybody else in the qualifying session, and he won the race by 15.5 seconds. When you bear in mind he led the vast majority of the race, apart from when he came in for his pit stop, his mandatory pit stop. And the race leader doesn't get to use DRS, doesn't get to use push to pass, unlike everybody else. That's 0.6 of a second a lap that he doesn't have access to, but he still absolutely romped home. René Rast, and to a point, Robin Freins stayed with him in the early stages of the race, but by the time Nico came in to make his pit stop, had a 3-odd second advantage. And there is something that's appeared at every round so far. Forza Robert flag. Robert Kubica, one of the newcomers to the DTM this year, struggled a little bit yesterday, hoping to try and haul himself a bit closer towards the points today. And as you can see, for the second weekend in succession, we have a limited capacity crowd to watch the DTM live. First time that that's happened in Germany, after we had it in the Netherlands last weekend at Assen. There's Marco Wittmann, who achieved a 3rd place finish yesterday after Robin Freins' spin, promoted from 4th up to 3rd. He had a good drive and pretty much dragged everything he could out of the car. And says that that's just about where they are at the moment with the BMW. They're trying to close the gap, trying to understand how to get closer to Audi. But in dry conditions, certainly around this track, they're just not quite got the pace of the front-running Audis. But Marco still able to drag the car up into a podium-paying position for the 2nd time this season. So Nico Müller has got 192 points in the championship. Robin Freins has got 149. That's the onboard camera of Robin, or one of them. 43 points the difference. There's 25 points available for a race win. There are also 3 points available for qualifying on pole position. So it's 3 for qualifying on pole, 2 for qualifying 2nd, and a point if you qualify 3rd. So come what may, with the maximum number of points available for a driver today being 28, Nico Müller is going to walk away from this weekend as the championship leader. 3rd in the points, René Rast on 140. After his 2nd place finish yesterday, he's closed to within 9 points of Robin Freins, who overtook him for 2nd in the championship at Assen with that maiden victory last weekend. At the head of the queue, you've got Jamie Green, Team Rosberg teammate to René Rast, somebody that was a race winner here last year. René Rast has also been a winner here at the Nürburgring, though not around this version of the circuit, which is being used for the first time by the DTM. Next weekend, it will be the shorter sprint version of the track, which they're more accustomed to. Jamie Green, after the race yesterday, said, well, the first 3 laps of the race were good. No, actually, first 3 corners of the race were good. After that, it was a bit of a nightmare. It was embroiled in a real ding-dong battle that we had through the first sequence of corners at the start of the race. In and around 6th place, you had him, Marco Wittmann, battling away, Ferdinand Habsburg, Philipp Eng, they were all bunched together. It was terrific to watch. But Jamie was forced out wide when Marco Wittmann got up the inside of him and dirtied his tyres and dropped back a couple of positions down the pack. Timo Glock was fighting in with them as well. And then the main problem for Jamie was that at the end of the first lap, going up to the chicane, he had a huge lockup and flat spotted his tyres and had quite a lot of vibration throughout the rest of the race. Gambled with an aggressive pit stop strategy, a fairly early pit stop. Didn't pay out for him though. First driver to pit yesterday was Jonathan Aberdeen, who pitted as early as you can. You can't pit for the first 5 laps of the race, but he pitted early and was able to score a point, having had to start the race from the back of the field following a disqualification from yesterday's qualifying results due to the fact that the team had to work on the car. And that was during Parc Fermé conditions.
Green is on turn 9.
Okay, Robin Freins heading out. Well, in terms of the track conditions, the weather conditions, it's pretty much as you were from yesterday. Very consistent conditions this weekend. It should push up to around about 23 degrees this afternoon when we get to the race, just after 1:30 local time, the start time for the race. And at the moment, it's around 19, 20 degrees, so pretty similar to what it was yesterday. Track has got grippier each day, so we'll have to make some adjustments. Riding on board with Renault now, then it'll take a couple of laps to get the tyres up to temperature. Then they'll have, if it follows yesterday's pattern, a couple of push laps. Come in, pit, put some new Hankook rubber on, go out again and have another push of 2 laps in the remaining time in the session. So yesterday in qualifying, Nico Müller took pole position by 0.221 seconds. A high 1 minute 46 was his pole position time. René Rast was second in qualifying and Robin Freins was third. So the top 3 in the championship were all up there in amongst the points runners. There's Ernst Mose just sort of peering back from the Team Phoenix pit wall. Team Phoenix, the local team here, based just not even a kilometre away, I don't think, from the circuit. You go past the premises as you drive in towards the main entrance here. Mike Rockenfeller was a little bit disappointed, he said, after the race yesterday. Even though he finished 4th, he'd gone with an early pit stop strategy as well and got himself up into 2nd place once the pit stops had all gone through. But of course he had older tyres than the front runners, and he also said after he'd changed tyres, he used a lot of DRS, a lot of push to pass to try and build that gap, knowing that he'd have tyres that would struggle a little bit at the end of the race. And so he didn't really have much left to defend with when the likes of René Rast and Robin Freins caught him up. Dropped to 5th, but then with Robin's spin at this corner, turn 1, he was able to come back up to 4th place. Right, so starting to push up the times now. On this first attempt, it's Ferdinand Habsburg that's been quickest so far, but it's going to be on the next lap and the one after that where we're going to look at really quick lap times, I suspect. Sort of low 52s through the first sector, whereas they will be looking at going quite a bit quicker than that, about 4 seconds quicker than that. And yes, you can see that on board with Nico Müller, the championship leader, who's now had 4 race wins this year, more than he scored in the whole of the 2019 campaign, which was a good campaign for him, finishing runner-up to René Rast. And he's still building and generating heat in the tyres and the brakes. Jamie Green goes past the commentary box window over the start-finish line. 1:54.3 is the first registered lap time, but it's going to be on this next lap where they're going to be looking at braking into the 1:47s, maybe the 1:46s. Ferdinand Habsburg qualified 6th yesterday. He's put some good qualifying performances in of late, the Austrian, in his 2nd season of DTM. 4th on the grids for race 2 at Lausitzring around the sprint circuit, 4th on the grid for the first race at Assen, and he qualified 6th yesterday. But if you were watching qualifying, you would have seen he had a bit of a tete-a-tete with Loic Duval, and the stewards deemed that he blocked Loic and gave him a 5-place grid penalty. Jonathan Aberdeen, the other one, with a penalty, as I say, with that work on the car that had to be done after he ran wide on his hot lap, and you can't work on the car which is in parc fermé conditions, as in it can't be touched and worked on after qualifying. And if you do, you get a penalty, you get disqualified from the results. So instead of being 13th on the grid, you had to start from last, but made a good start yesterday, got 4 places straight away. He actually lost 10th place on the final lap to Lucas Auer, but Lucas, we didn't see the incident, but he was deemed to have taken off the track, taken an advantage, was given a 4-second penalty, which put Jonathan Aberdeen back into the final points-paying position and dropped Lucas down to 12th place. So Jamie Green, René Rast on this push lap. Rast is the quicker of the two, but only just on this first sector, 49.848 seconds. 49.885 for Green, and absolute best in the second sector as well for René Rast. So Green's going to put the first lap time in, but Rast, his teammate, is, as it stands, around about 0.2 of a second quicker than him through the first 2/3 of the lap through the first 2 sectors. So Green puts in a 1:46.90, but it should be quicker for René Rast. Through he goes, 1:47.482. So yeah, 0.2 quicker. Who else is flying through that first stint? Mike Rockenfeller had a pretty good first stint, first sector rather, so 1:47.810 for him, just behind Jamie Green and in 3rd place. Sheldon van der Linde was 4th, but Harrison Newey has just gone 4th with a 1:49.103. We only had those real charging laps from Rast, Green and Rockenfeller. However, Robin Freins is on a quick lap, 49.783 through the first sector. In the number 4 Audi, he's the absolute best through the first sector on this lap. So he's some way from crossing the line, but he's going to very much be up there, I would think, with that. Maybe onto provisional pole position in the early stages of the session. Muller went out a little bit after the rest of them. So here comes Nico now, but he's just about to start his first real attempt. This won't be the lap to put him up in the mix, really. Nico Muller out of the final turn at the Hyundai end curve, getting a good exit, going up through the gears. Slight climb uphill over the first bit of the start-finish line, then they drop down into the first corner. Freins with a personal best through the second sector, and 38.198 was a pretty good time, so this should be, I think, enough to put him on the front row, maybe provisional pole position. Through he goes, yes, 1:47.461 seconds. He's done it just by 21 thousandths of a second. He's moved ahead of René Rast, but René is on a good lap again. Absolute best in sector 1, absolute best in sector 2, and this could be a low 1:47, I reckon, if the final sector holds up, which is a relatively straightforward final sector. He pushes hard on the exit to the final turn. René Rast comes over the line and goes 1:47.225 to the top of the times, back to the top of the times. I doubt he'll get a 3rd flying lap in, so that will probably be René back to the pits at the end of this lap, ready to regroup. But 1:47.225, I think there's going to be more time to come as more rubber gets laid down on the circuit and the temperatures begin to rise a little bit throughout the session. Still think you probably need to be in the 1:46s to go for provisional pole position today, especially with the pace that we've had from Nico Muller. And Nico's first sector wasn't a flyer, a 50.228. So he's about 0.4 of a second down through the first sector. He's just gone through the second sector over the white line, just on the way into the chicane. 38.2. It's a good second sector. But I think it's going to be the next lap where he has to really go for it. Slightly out of sync with the others. Robin Freins has done a decent first sector on his next lap, 49.839. So Muller goes through, 6th place, but this is the lap really, this next one. Marco Wittmann looks like he's about to improve from 9th position with his latest attempt. Personal best in all of the sectors. Wittmann goes through and moves up to 5th place. And here's Robin Freins. Looks like a decent lap so far. The second sector was an absolute best, and it's 2nd place, 1:47.307. 82 thousandths of a second away from René Rast. But what about Nico Muller? We'll see what his sector times are like on this lap. 1:48.1 was his first attempt. Jamie Green heads back to the pits. Be pretty satisfied with 3rd place, but I think he knows he needs to go even quicker, more likely in the second half of the session. René Rast, as expected, comes back to the pits now. And Muller still making his way around. He's down at the Dunlop curve at the moment. He's just gone through the first sector.
Quickest sector 1, on par sector 2 and 3.
And Muller's backed off, actually. It's not going to be a flying lap, this one. So Muller, curiously, is 7th at the halfway stage.
Copy. So 1/10 in your P3, only 1/10 to P3. Just so you know as well, Duval tried to give you a bit of a slipstream. I know it wasn't perfect timing to overlap, but he was trying to help.
No, it was great. Thank you. It was good that he thought about it.
Yeah, copy.
Our teammates working together. Loic Duval, who you just see coming in the number 28 Audi, and his Team Phoenix teammate Mike Rockenfeller, you heard from there. Just getting the news that Loic wasn't trying to get in your way, he was trying to give you a tow. And Mike, I think, had already realised that. So, no, that's great. Thank you very much. That was Timo Glock, who has got the onboard camera, in 8th place. At the halfway stage, René Rast, a 147.225 quickest. Robin Freins, a 147.307 is second. A 10th between them. And then 3/10 adrift of Freins is Jamie Green in 3rd place, 147.690. Mike Rockenfeller, 147.810 is 4th. Marco Wittmann, 147.862 is 5th. Loic Duval in 6th with a 147.973. Nico Muller, who's dominated the weekend so far, is only 7th, 148.156. And it's Timo Glock.
New fast lap, second lap, blue. Waiting for that.
Then it's Timo Glock in 8th, Philip Eng 9th, Lucas Auer 10th, Harrison Newey 11th, Ferdinand Habsburg 12th, Jonathan Aberdeen 13th, Fabio Scherer 14th, Robert Kubica 15th, and Sheldon van der Linde. Haven't seen anything in terms of a good lap time from him yet, which puts him 16th.
No major time losses in data so far, waiting for Freins.
Copy.
So potentially an issue for Sheldon van der Linde as well.
If you want.
Yes.
So they're hearing from René Rast.
Green is red.
And there is the view from the cockpit. Look at all that data he's got on the laptop. Look at all the buttons and data and information on the race cockpit screen as well. The rear view camera in the middle of the cockpit.
Copy.
There's a plethora of buttons, like a airline cockpit, isn't it? With all the things you have to push and remember and set up. So René Rast provisionally on pole position at this halfway stage. Less than half the time left to run, but they'll get another 2 laps in each. So I don't think anybody expected to see Nico Muller down in 7th place. I wonder if he had a slight issue or a problem on his flying lap, because I thought he was going to go for another run, but in the end it was a 148.1 was the best he could manage, which means he's nearly a second slower than René Rast. All right, super slow-mo replay of Robin Freins. It's on the way through the Vidal chicane towards the end of the lap. It's the car hopping and bouncing around on the tarmac here as we get the cars heading back out. Green and Rast, Rockenfeller, van der Linde, who needs a good lap here. He's normally been a very, very good qualifier this year, Sheldon, but at the moment he's stone last, which is most unusual. It's only at Assen really where he struggled in qualifying, but the race came to him with a terrific drive and a maiden race victory. He was 6th quickest yesterday. Well, he was 7th quickest, got promoted to 6th on the grid. He's been on the second row of the grid a couple of times as well, at Spa and at the Lausitzring Sprints event. And up until Marco Wittmann got 4th place in yesterday's qualifying session, that was the best any BMW driver had done. Lucas Auer, who celebrated his 26th birthday at the start of the weekend on Friday, heading out, still looking for his first point of the weekend. Winner of the 6th round of the championship, the second race at the Lausitzring Grand Prix circuit. Replay of Timo Glock. He's going to get trouble here, isn't he? Yeah.
Guys, this was an unsafe release. He ran in front of my car. Newey.
Yeah, Harrison Newey released and having to get on the brakes pretty hard there was Timo Glock. And you're now looking at interview with Ben Constanduras this morning, pretty early morning interview. Timo Glock was interviewed from his motorhome. He's one of the drivers that stays at the circuit in his motorhome. He just prefers to do that. So he's literally a 20-second walk away from the team garage. This gives him a bit more time in bed, means he's got less driving to do. He says, you know what, I spend enough time in hotels. It's nice to have my own base. has a cup of coffee and a banana for breakfast, and that's it. Doesn't have much to eat at all in the mornings. Maybe after qualifying a few nuts, but that's about it in the morning. Very light on what he eats before a qualifying session. Timo Glock finishing yesterday's race in 7th place. He's 5th in the championship at the moment. And if he can stay there by the end of the season, that will match his best DTM season so far. 5 times a winner in the DTM. Best season was a couple of years ago where he finished 5th in the championship with just the 1 win that season, but 5 podium finishes as well. So, René Rast, the driver to beat at the moment. The time isn't as quick as the pole time from yesterday. Is he going to have to get quicker? Is Nico Müller struggling, or has he just not been able to get the lap in? Has he still got the car underneath him that he had yesterday, which was an absolutely terrific machine to drive? Just cruised the win. Mega lap in qualifying, and with the very similar conditions, you think, well, why would it change today? What's different? Why wouldn't he be on pole position again? Why wouldn't he win the race again? There's obviously a lot more variables that can come in. Bad luck, bad starts, things going wrong out of the track. But in terms of the pace, that should still be there, shouldn't it, in qualifying? We'll see. He's put himself under a bit of pressure now because rather than having 4 laps to have a go at it, he's only got 2 laps to have a go at it. And when you've got the sort of pace advantage that you've had all weekend long here at a circuit, it doesn't happen that often that you're the dominant one by that much, particularly in this hugely competitive field. So really, I would think yesterday Nico would be thinking to himself, do you know what, it's got to be 2 race wins this weekend, otherwise I've not got the most out of what I could from the weekend. Spoke to him after the race yesterday and asked him how the victory rated amongst the victories that he's had up to this point in the DTM, because it was so dominant, because it was also such a big statement for his bid to become the champion for the first time. And he said, yeah, absolutely right, because it was such a great car to drive, such a big win, then it definitely rates up there. But he also said, it's those races where you have to fight for it and where you're overtaking a lot of cars, where you're up against it, you're on the back foot. They're the ones that I really enjoy. They'll be the ones that were my favourite wins and podium finishes, rather than pretty much lights to flag victories, what he had yesterday. So he does love to go racing, he does love a battle, but he didn't have to do any of that yesterday. There's Loic de Waal, who struggled on his first set of tyres yesterday. Just said, I just didn't have any grip, just couldn't find the grip. But it was a much better car once he changed the tyres in the second stint relative to everybody else. So he was pretty comfortable, but he was just too far back at that point to be able to get involved with the real front runners. Loic de Waal 4th in the championship, but he's a long way adrift. He's got 73 points, so he's only got just over half the number of points of René Rast, who's next up in the championship table in 3rd place. Right, Mike Rockenfeller, absolute best so far of the session through the first sector, 49.715 seconds. Green's had a decent first sector as well, a 49.8. And then you've got Duval, Eng and Aberdeen have all done 49.9s through the first sector. And through the second sector, Duval has done a very good time, a 38.079. It's not the absolute best, but it's his best. So this is going to put him right up the order, I would think. Loic de Waal goes through now and goes, up to 3rd place. So that is a 147.491. Jonathan Aberdeen, a much better lap as well. Best BMW at the moment, and 5th place. Jamie Green with a decent lap. That's his 147.7. It's his 2nd best lap of the session so far. So he stays on the 2nd row of the grid. Rockenfeller goes up to 3rd place now. And that's a 147.4 exactly. Personal best in sectors 1 and 2. But here comes Nico Müller, 49.6 seconds through the first sector. That's a 10th quicker than anybody else has been through the first sector, and it's 2 tenths quicker than most people have been through the first sector. So this looks like the lap, if it can glue it together. Over the white line now to register the end of the 2nd sector, and it's a personal best, but not an absolute best. He's surely going to improve his position overall, though. 37.9. Not many drivers have got under 38 through the 2nd sector. It's a short final sector, just the chicane and the final turn. Robin Freins looks like he might be about to try and improve as well. Yes, he goes onto a provisional pole with a 147.096, but Müller comes through and goes quicker. 146.958. There you go. Back where we all thought he'd be after yesterday's outstanding performance. Pressure was on. but he was able to shoulder it, and he's still got another lap if he needs it as well. So first driver today to get into the 146s. Freins very briefly onto provisional pole. 146.958 for Muller, 147.096 for Freins. They've both pushed René Rast down to third place. And René's done a 49.8 on his first sector as the flag comes out, which is pretty good, but not outstanding. Rockenfeller is fourth, Duval is fifth, Green is down to sixth, Aberdeen seventh, Kubica he's going well in eighth place, and he's had a personal best through the first sector as well. So Robert Kubica looking for his best qualifying session so far in the DTM. 147.8, if he can find another 0.2 of a second, he might even be on the third row of the grid provisionally. Right, René Rast has improved his second sector time. Is he going to get him back onto the front row of the grid this lap? Through goes René over the line, 147.203. No, he's going to stay third at best. It's his best lap, but he stays in third place. Shakes his head. Hasn't quite got the car underneath him to push. Robin Freins didn't improve upon the first sector time. Robert Kubica's just gone through the second sector. He's lost a bit more time, a 38.5 for Robert. That's compared to the absolute front runners. Muller's backed off. It was just the one attack lap, really, from him. So Muller's not going to improve. He doesn't need to improve. He's on provisional pole. Robin Freins is into the pits. Anybody else to watch out for? Kubica, I think, could still improve his position. No, it's gone into the pits. Gone into the pits after what was a good start to the lap, but I think it faded away in the middle of the lap. So he's dropped to 9th currently. Marco Wittmann about to come through. Can he improve upon 10th place? Over the line he goes. It's a personal best in the last sector, but it's not enough. He stays 10th. Through he goes, and through two. Into the pits goes Nico Muller, the pole position driver for the second time this weekend. There was a lock-up as Robin Freins pushed a bit too hard. And his final lap, his final attack lap at least, was a 147.096. Good enough to get onto the front row of the grid, good enough to score 2 points, but not as good as Nico Muller. The driver is really trying to beat now every time he goes out there. So Freins gets out of the car. Nico Muller, the pressure was on there. Be interesting to find out why it didn't quite work out for him in the first run, whether they had a mistake or the setup was wrong, or maybe got held up somewhere. But when it absolutely mattered, he rose to the occasion, didn't he? A 146.958, the track not quite as quick as it was yesterday in the qualifying session 24 hours ago. I think you can see it's a pretty beautiful morning here in the Eifel Mountains of Germany, the western parts of Germany. The nearest city to here is Cologne, which is around about 70, 80 kilometres away. René Rast third on the grid. So you've got the top three in the championship and the top three in qualifying. And in that order, Muller, Freins, Rast. Rast's going to be disappointed with that, though. Jamie Green, though, I think will be pretty happy. 6th place for Jamie. And that is his second best qualifying of the year. There's the results there. Nico Muller on pole position for this afternoon's 10th round of the championship. Robin Freins second, René Rast third. Mike Rockenfeller for local team Phoenix fourth. His teammate Loïc Duval better than yesterday in fifth. Jamie Green better than yesterday starts sixth. Sheldon van der Linde did improve in the second half of the session to go up to 7th place, more accustomed to seeing him up in that kind of area. And Jonathan Aberdeen with a good qualifying position in 8th place. That's his second best qualifying of the year. Robert Kubica, his best qualifying in 9th. Marco Wittmann, who's just come into the pits, is going to be 10th. Eng 11th, Glock 12th, Auer 13th, Scherer 14th, Newey 15th, and Habsburg, curiously, down in 16th, having a pretty quick in the qualifying session yesterday. So it is Nico Muller on pole position, Robin Freins second, and René Rast third. And we can hear now down in the pits from Verena.
The man who just seems unstoppable, Nico Muller, pole position for you, but it was only in the last minute that you managed to secure pole. What were you struggling with, or was that just a bit of a tease?
Yeah, I had a bit of an issue on the first set. I made a mistake on the first push. I locked up in turn 1. I mentioned yesterday, when the conditions only change a little bit, you have to adapt to it, and I didn't quite do a good job in the first push lap. I locked up and went wide. So then you pick up dirt, and it felt like the tires didn't work anymore from then on. So I knew I only had one more chance, which was the second run, obviously. And I made it stick, so it feels good. And luckily, we still managed to pull that one out.
So the pressure was on, and now, of course, with a race, looking at that, it's the best position to start in.
Yeah, looking forward to it. I mean, we've seen yesterday that, you know, our race pace was good. I hope today will be similar, and then we should have a good race again.
All right, thank you, Nico. Back to you.
Thanks, Verena. Yeah, 6th career pole position in the DTM for Nico Müller, and his 3rd of the season. He'll score 3 championship points, so now moves on to 195. 2 more for Freins for qualifying 2nd. He moves on to 151, and a point for qualifying 3rd. René Rast moves on to 141 points. So the gap grows now to 44 points between Müller and Freins, and with the championship leader, of course, in the best position on the grid for this afternoon's 55-minute plus 1 lap race. The 3 drivers, Müller in the middle, Freins to the left and Rast to the right, pose for a top 3 photograph. As soon as they're done with their media duties, they will, you can guarantee, be straight on the laptops looking at the data. But good to hear with Verena managing to find out what the problem was in the first part of that run from Nico Müller. It was a lock-up into turn 1, and it ruined the tyres for the rest of the lap. Rast, 3rd place. He had been on provisional pole at the halfway phase in qualifying, but he'll have to start behind his 2 championship rivals for the race this afternoon. Robin Freins in 2nd place. 1 minute 47.096 seconds, just over a tenth behind Nico Müller. So it's going to be close in the race, you would hope. But once again, it's Freins.
And I've got Robin right here. Robin, P2 for you. It's very, very close to Nico. So I guess looking at the race, it shows that your car is very fast. So how do you feel about it?
I think I was quite happy with the qualifying. I'm quite happy with the car, actually. For me personally, it was quite a big of an improvement compared to yesterday. I felt much better. Today in quali, yeah, I did a little mistake in my quickest lap in turn 3, so I lost a bit of time. So I felt like the car I had underneath me was definitely good enough to put it on pole. But yeah, I mean, race is long. Yesterday, René and Nico both had really good starts. I had poor ones, so the key for sure is hopefully have a good start, hopefully keep my position, and then we can fight from there.
All right, looking forward to it. Thank you, Robin. Back to you.
Thanks, Verena. Yeah, once again, it's Robin Freins who provides the closest opposition to Nico Müller. Pretty happy with the car, he was saying, and it is a much closer gap at the end of that session than it was at the end of qualifying 1. But then again, Müller only had the 1 lap to get the job done. Great confidence that he's carrying with himself with the car now, and great honesty as well to say, look, it was just my mistake. I didn't adapt to the slightly changeable conditions from yesterday as well as I should have in the first stint. It was a little bit different. I got it a little bit wrong, but in the end, he got it absolutely right. Here's how they'll line up then, provisionally with Nico Müller and Robin Freins sharing the front row of the grid. René Rast and Mike Rockenfeller on row 2 for this afternoon's race. The 3rd row of the grid, it's Loic Duval and Jamie Green with one of his best qualifyings of the year so far. Sheldon van der Linde and Jonathan Aberdeen in the BMW's lineup next. And then to complete the top 10, a best qualifying so far for Robert Kubica. Marco Wittmann on the podium yesterday. We'll have to do something special from 10th on the grid. Philipp Eng and Timo Glock line up on the 6th row of the grid. And then we've got Lucas Auer and Fabio Scherer starting 13th and 14th. The final row of the grid, Harrison Newey and Ferdinand Habsburg. That's how they're going to line up for this afternoon's 10th race of the championship. Let's head back now down into the pit lane to hear from Verena Riet.
So that was the qualifying, and of course now we're all looking forward to the race coming up this afternoon. We're all enjoying the sunshine here, and hopefully we're going to see some exciting race action. So you don't want to miss it. See you later. Here are the highlights. Bye-bye.